everybody, and welcome to another episode of the AI Inside Podcast, the show where we take a look at the AI that is layered throughout so much of the world of technology. I'm one of two hosts, Jason Howell, joined by Jeff Jarvis. How you doing, Jeff?
Hey, boss. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Finally, I don't know what it's like over there, but finally outside, it's starting to feel like summer. It's been really cool and weird up until now.
Here.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
So you're getting our cold.
I'm wearing my
You're
hoodie
getting the cold
today.
that we had.
Yeah.
It's the weird weather year. Stoked to dive into this. Once again, it's another week where there seems to be a few kind of themes running through things, kind of changing around the order a little bit here, kind of tweaking with the format and stuff. So we're just going to get right into the news, and we got a few surprises for later in the show. So why don't we just get right to it? Amazon CEO Andy Jassy sent a memo to Amazon employees saying that the company expects AI to reduce its workforce in the coming years anyway, surprising absolutely no one. The reductions would come to both white-collar jobs, also warehouse roles within the company. Jassy has encouraged Amazon employees to adapt by learning about AI and integrating it into their own work. So this playbook's starting to sound very familiar. This is in essence Amazon's AI first Duolingo moment. Although I don't know if the reaction has been quite as harsh and swift as it was with Duolingo, but we're seeing more of this.
Well, Duolingo was more immediate. We won't hire anybody if AI can do it from now on.
That's true.
And so on. And it's a smaller company, so you can hide more in Amazon. But I wonder what this does to morale.
Yeah.
Because the argument could be made differently. The company could grow because of the efficiencies we'll find with AI and go from there. I don't know if I talked about this last week in light of the linotype, which is the subject of my next book, Hot Type, out as soon as I finish the damn thing. And when the linotype, which is a machine to set type automatically, came in, not to fully replace typesetters, but the old typesetting mode, the International Typographical Union could have said, we're going to destroy it, it's going to destroy us, screw that. Instead, they said, no, we're going to embrace it and we're going to run it. Because they knew that they would lose jobs in the short run and grow in the long run. I think I've said this before, but just for recap. And so in the case of Amazon, he could have said, all your jobs are going to change. And if we use AI to grow, if we use AI to become more efficient and we invest that dividend in growth, then lots of opportunities, which means you should be learning these tools so that you can find ways to do that. But he didn't say that. He said, we're going to shrink because of this. Now, maybe his message was just purely to Wall Street, saying we're going to be more profitable, but he could have said we're going to be more productive. So I find this a little odd in a way. And I think also, we've seen arguments, this is one of the themes of the day about jobs, that, is it really going to affect jobs all around? Are people really going to lose lots of jobs or not? There's much debate about that still. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And I mean, there is no certainty at this point about how that plays out. Maybe he's being just honest.
What a thing. What a concept.
Maybe he's just, instead of, painting a rosy picture on it, just basically saying like, no, look, this is the reality. The AI, does change things. The integration of AI in the warehouse certainly does. I mean, it's not like Amazon is new to, using robotics to do things that maybe humans were doing before. And that's certainly, I have to imagine, cut down on the workforce in the warehouse to some degree. And maybe from that experience, it's just like, well, yeah, it's going to impact our jobs. But,
Important you raise that too, because Amazon, I don't know what the policy is now, but years past, it always had a policy that if you worked in the warehouse, you could be retrained for other jobs because they predicted they were going to use robotics to reduce jobs.
And so that's how they kind of staved off the immediate kind of, I don't know if I want to work there because my days are numbered from day one.
Or a Luddite revolt, as the case might be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A few quotes that I just pulled out. He says, as we roll out more generative AI and agents, it should change the way our work is done. It also said those who embrace this change, become conversant in AI, help us build and improve our AI capabilities internally, and deliver for customers will be well positioned to have high impact and help us reinvent the company. So looking to really kind of shape things around the AI technology. And it was interesting, though, when I was reading through this, kind of comparing it to the reaction and the response to the Duolingo thing. And I think you're absolutely right. There's probably something about the size of the company, but there also is really something about the kind of immediacy. Duolingo was just like, nope, AI is changing everything from day one right now. And, contract workers be damned immediately. And this at least gives some room for things to evolve.
Yep.
Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, also along this topic. Basically, this first whole block is really kind of living in this AI taking our
labor,
jobs bubble.
right.
Yeah. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang has thoughts on AI and jobs, which he shared at the Viva Tech conference in Paris. Specifically, he was talking about and addressing Anthropic CEOs Dario Amodei. There we go. That's right. It's like Amadeus. I have to continue to remind myself of that. Dario Amadeus, about the impact of AI and on jobs specifically. Huang pushed back on Amadei's prediction that AI could automate up to half of all entry-level office jobs in 5 years, said that he pretty much disagrees with almost everything Amodei says on the topic, and I believe that was a quote. So, okay, so he might be a fan of Amodei, but he certainly doesn't agree with Amodei on this topic anyways. Huang believes that AI will impact jobs, of course, but that it will also create new opportunities, which is something we've been talking about many times on this show. Is, yes, jobs might go away, but it also creates other jobs that didn't exist before. That lines up with history when new technologies come along. Often impacts jobs in the short term, creates new things that didn't exist in the longer term. And so why would this be any different? And that seems to be the perspective that he shares.
It also is an outcropping of the doom as PR strategy of the air quotes safety people at both Anthropic and OpenAI. And so Huang said, and I'm quoting, one, he believes that AI is so scary that only they, Anthropic, should do it. Two, that AI is so expensive, nobody else should do it. And three, AI is so incredibly powerful that everyone will lose their jobs, which explains why they should be the only company building it. I think, said Huang, AI is a very important technology. We should build it and advance it safely and responsibly. If you want things to be done safely and responsibly, you do it in the open. Don't do it in a dark room and tell me it's safe. So this is, I think, the AGI, and they're all kind of in the AGI cult, but some are more in the doom end of that versus the acceleration end of that. So Anthropic is in this could be very dangerous, but we're the ones to save you. We're the ones to protect you. You should trust us, school. And Huang here is arguing more, no, there's issues, but we should all do it transparently. So I think I'm more on the Huang side than the Amodei side.
You're on the Huang side instead of the right side. The Economist had a story last month that highlighted the lack of evidence that AI has any sort of impending jobs apocalypse to date anyways. And this is another article that you threw in there. According to this article, data shows roles often cited as vulnerable to automation. So, often like translation is one of those that comes up because these AI models and LLMs specifically are very, pretty competent when it comes to translation. White collar support jobs and roles. Though the data shows that those roles vulnerable to automation have increased or remained stable over the past year. So not really going down, even when you're looking at something like translation, which seems like the immediate thing that I think of when I think of what kind of job has immediate impact based on these tools. I guess the reality is I probably wasn't going to an actual human translator before anyways. I don't know.
That's a good point, right?
I suppose maybe that's part of it. But one example was the number of people employed in interpretation and translation is up 7% from 1 year ago in the US. Yeah, it's kind of surprising. I don't know.
They're all hired by immigration lawyers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need the data.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm really glad that people are starting to look at the data. And I said this last week. I remember I did say this. It's the problem of being old and a professor is you don't know when you repeat yourself. But I said last week that the Department of Labor and the Census and the Congressional Commission, all at the turn of the last century, studied the impact of new technologies in publishing and media. And they had detailed data about how many people were employed, what they were paid, how many hours they worked, because this was also an issue at the time of reducing the number of hours. I think now we need to know employment, who's gig employment, who's full-time employment, what's the change been, what's the quality of work, what's happening. We need that kind of data. Unfortunately, and I'm not meaning to be too political here, but this current administration is not likely to be spending extra money to do that. But somehow or another, we need to know those facts before we go to presumptions that it's going to destroy all jobs or all jobs are safe either way. We don't know.
Indeed. Now, some interpretations, God, I kind of can't speak today, interpretations of the data, either few companies are using AI for the core business functions, or AI is actually making workers more productive instead of redundant. And again, that seems like a theme that comes up in our conversations a lot is maybe these tools just make us better at what we do, or faster, or more efficient, whatever.
Well, the other question is what possibly new jobs are created.
Right.
In my world, in journalism and media, we never had product management and audience development. Those were entirely new roles, and I helped start the News Product Alliance, and it now has 3,000 members. A job description that didn't exist 20 years ago. So I think there could be new jobs here that exist.
And there were jobs that were created a couple of years ago, like prompt engineer, that are struggling to to continue to be a job. Because guess what? Everyone's a prompt engineer now. Because it's gone from being a specialty into being a kind of shared skill that's kind of part of how this machinery works now. The machinery of work.
This was a discussion I had with some faculty recently. A disagreement. Other faculty said we don't even need to teach AI literacy because the machine is going to be so literate that you don't need to teach it. I disagree pretty strongly because you need to know how it operates. You need to know the ethics behind it. You need to know where bias comes in. You need to know the implications for society. You need to know about the environment. There's a lot that I would frame under literacy. It's not just using the machine to do a particular task. And so I think that it's possible that indeed some tasks will just simply go away and don't need to be taught because the machine is so simple, right? Slide rule to calculator, right? Logarithms. We make calculations now that have tons of implications from logarithms, and we don't even know it. So yeah, there'll be changes, but I don't think that those go away.
Yeah. And speaking of new jobs, in our cavalcade of jobs and AI stories, a New York Times story about new jobs and the emerging positions that are finding their way in the midst of this kind of AI infusion in the job market that seems to be happening right now. And the jobs, of which New York Times Magazine pointed out 22 new ones that it could give you. The jobs detailed reflect, when you read through here, kind of emphasize that the need for humans to be part of the system is still a big need, right? AI systems require according to this article, humans in order to keep it trustworthy, in order to keep it well integrated, guided by human judgment, by human creativity. These things are all important. And so, I mean, there's a whole list of jobs. I don't need to read them all, but, trust authenticator, trust director, legal guarantor, AI ethicist. I mean, there's a whole bunch of
My
them
favorite is AI personality director.
Personality director.
I think I need that, actually. Somebody needs to direct my personality.
Yeah. So why would you use an AI personality to tell you how your personality can be better?
It will fine tune these issues in the future. An organization's AI personality can become a core of its brand and logo.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, so wait, yeah. So what? They're going to change this to AI culture.
Yeah.
You're going to what's the word when you hire people? You
onboard.
Onboard. Yeah, you're going to onboard. I've actually heard people say this. You need to onboard the AI.
Whoa.
People are treating AI as if it is an employee that needs HR. It's a little dumb, but
kind of like how corporations are people.
Right. Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of this is checking the AI's work.
Yeah. Right. No, totally.
Yeah.
I think that's which, I mean, is it enjoyable to check the AI's work? Maybe it is for some people. I mean, in my interaction with AI for the things that I do, that's largely what I spend time with on the other side of using these tools, is checking it and making sure that I'm, putting anything in my voice and not its voice. And yeah, that takes time.
So let me ask you about
concentration. It's a different type of concentration than doing the work without those tools.
Absolutely. It's like when I did the audiobook for a magazine recently, plug, it'll be out soon. The producer sits and reads every word that is in the book versus what I'm saying. I could never concentrate that much. I would just zone out completely. And so there's a certain kind of person to do that. So let me ask you this, Jason. It's taking on tasks that you found cumbersome, boring, right? Having to do
in some cases
notes or summaries or that kind of stuff. Yeah. But on the other hand, is checking its work also boring?
No, well, I mean, I guess it can be boring, or maybe it's not boring. It's stimulating in a different way. I don't know. Like it just is part of the process, right? And actually, I'm happy we're talking about this because I read something from friend of the show, previous guest Alex Hanna on LinkedIn, and I think it was part of a thread that Emily Bender was chatting about too. And the whole gist of the thread was about how AI is supposedly so very good at research, and yet, and I'm totally paraphrasing, I don't have the exact quote here from Alex, but Alex Hanna kind of shared something to the point of, but the research is the fun part. Like, why would I want to give the keys over to an AI to do that? Because in doing that, that's the most enjoyable part for me, is the discovery and the breadcrumb trail that leads from one point to another and everything. And I really think that just depends on who you ask, right? Like, I don't mind research. I do find research fascinating. I also know myself well enough to know that I can get lost in the weeds with research. And sometimes I need, just in general in life for me and work, I can get lost in the weeds and I need something to kind of reel me in. So sometimes using an AI system to help me research helps me feel like I have a little bit of like a destination, because I don't have unlimited amounts of time for this. And so how do I maximize my time? And so I do enjoy the process, I guess is what I'm saying. It's just in a different way.
That raises another one, is that what the makers of AI like to use it for is summary. And I find summaries boring and specifics interesting. Right. So I just put a quote in for, I went to an article from 1900 in the Atlantic about magazines, books, and newspapers. And if I had put that through to summarize it, I wouldn't have had any of the interesting quotes. I wouldn't have had any of the other stuff. Yeah. It's like the problem I have with the 3 bullets on top of every story now from AI. It kind of takes headlines do that. If I just want a quick summary, give me better headlines. Change the format of headlines. But headlines' job now isn't to summarize. Headlines' job now is to grab your attention and pull you in. So summary is to me generally very boring. And when I've tried to take some long newsletters and put it through, especially the Google, because the Google summary is right there. It's one little paragraph and it misses the flavor and the specifics of it.
Because when we ask an AI to summarize something, especially long prose, we're asking it to make a determination about what is most important that it probably doesn't know how to do, in a similar way that, you know what I mean? Like asking it to, be creative. Like what does that mean for an AI? It's like, okay, cool. I'll be creative. Okay. Like, what does that mean? Is that creating something? Is that creating something unique and interesting? Okay. Define interesting. What is interesting? And as a human, we have our own experience and our own lived experience in life and everything to inform us that when I read through something, these are the things that match up to my kind of experience and own personal data set that I find interesting. And how on earth could I expect an AI to know what I find interesting?
This is why I get so excited about Notebook LM, because it gives us a different, it summarizes and it gives us the podcasts and all that kind of stuff. But when Stephen Johnson first showed it to me, he's the editorial director there, the example that really hit me was so-and-so says this. Who disagrees with that? Right? Or give me examples of this. It's to get you to the specifics where it may have the value. It may uncover things that you may have missed.
Right.
That's where the value is. By the way, I put my entire manuscript, because I'm at I hope the final stage of editing before I submit the manuscript. I put it all through Notebook LM last week. And it gave a very good summary. The summary was quite good. It may be useful in writing jacket copy and so on. That's fine.
Sure.
But then I asked it to find me my writer's tics, because I always have them. When I wrote my first book, I used the verb enable so much that it drove my editor insane. Right. He started counting it, right?
What is the well that you keep returning to? Yeah.
And each time it's different. So this time it was, what the hell was it? Now I'm forgetting. As well as.
As well as, okay. Yeah.
And very nicely said, you could say and. And I think I had used it 30 times. I searched through and I found it, and I think I needed 2 of them.
Yeah,
so that kind of stuff is really useful. That's fine.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I say really, I write really a lot. I'm really excited, or and it almost always is like, you don't need the really. It doesn't need to be there. I'm like, yeah, but it feels human when I say really. I'm really excited. Those are little
Same
tics
with in fact, actually, indeed.
Yes.
Those are fancy ones, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, so it's good for those things. Like the only other thing that I think kind of touches on this a little bit, maybe it makes sense with what we're talking about, but like, I'm working on some video ideas right now where I take a look at old Android devices and I do kind of like a device retrospective, right? Like I did one on the Nexus 1 a handful of weeks ago. I've got an insane amount of devices that I want to do it with. And so I'm really doing a lot of thought around like, what do I want the structure of this to be? What is the right amount of information to go into? Like, I don't just want to be, here's a phone and here's the specs, blah, blah, blah. Like, what was the history that came to it? What led us to it? What was the launch like? What was perception like? What did that lead to when it died? Was it celebrated or missed? And like, what is the long-term view of it? And, using these tools to research, what I've found is they do a really good job of pulling a lot of stuff, especially the research functions of ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini is really good at research. It takes a long time, gives you a lot of dense information, but that doesn't mean it catches everything.
No,
No. It's like I was doing I was doing research on the Galaxy Nexus, which is an old, smartphone that I used to have that I loved, but had its issues. And during that time, there was a major case between Oracle and Google and Apple happening.
Oh, right.
And the research really didn't touch on that, even though it directly impacted that phone. And so if I didn't know that, if I still wasn't also involved in this and took it wholesale, I would miss this major connective piece, connective tissue. And that's just, I don't know if that means the systems aren't good enough yet, or if that just means like humans will always need to be part of it a little bit because we're going to catch things that, it doesn't know what it doesn't know.
I think what this goes back to again and again and again is it's not a replacement, it's a tool.
Yes. Yes. And
If
that's
it's a
exactly
tool,
what these stories. Yeah.
it's what we direct it to do. And I think
Yep.
we're robbing ourselves in media and in company PR. We're robbing ourselves of our agency and control and power over these things. And that's the wrong way to go. And that's why people get freaked about it. If instead we constantly talked about this is what it lets you do, this is what it enables you to do, this is why you're needed in that process. This is how it can help make what you do better. Hallelujah. But when we talk about replacing people like Amazon, I think it's going to freak people out.
Yeah.
Inevitably,
Yeah.
it's going to.
Indeed. Agreed. Well, that is our employment block, and we are going to take
From
a quick break.
two unemployed people.
The lines are real blurry between
Yes, they
unemployment
are.
and self-employment,
Yes, they are
I have to say. That's one of the big lessons I've taken away the last year and a half. It's like, I don't know which one I answer. They're both true. Do want to, speaking of unemployment, do want to throw a huge thank you to our patrons who enable us in a financial way. Many of them enable us financially to do this show. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show. One of our amazing patrons, Zoe Deterding. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right, Zoe, but thank you for your ongoing support. And thank you to everyone who, hits us up on Patreon. Patreon.com/AI Inside Show. You can see a large AI. These are our actual images, but things are smoothed out with AI. It felt like I was keeping with the brand by doing that. So there you go. All right. We are going to take a super quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about OpenAI and the U.S. Department of Defense. Big story coming up. Uh-oh. All right. OpenAI secured a 1-year, $200 million contract, which in the realm of big tech and AI doesn't seem like that much money, really. But
it's a
nonetheless,
foot in the door.
Yeah, it's a foot in the door, right? And that's largely what this is. With the U.S. Department of Defense, we'll provide AI tools. We'll develop prototype AI capabilities for the military, for their administrative applications. Much of that work happening in Washington, D.C. This is indeed, you said opening the door. This is OpenAI's first official contract with the Department of Defense and is part of OpenAI for Government, which the company is largely using to bring its AI solutions to federal, state, and local agencies. And yeah, here we go. $200 million U.S. defense contract. What are your thoughts?
So it wasn't that long ago when Google had to sell, what was it, Boston Dynamics, didn't they, because of protests over using drones as weapons?
That's right.
And Google employees were generally saying, you can't use this stuff. And Palantir was always the exception in Silicon Valley. Okay, they've gone to the other side, but everybody else in Silicon Valley was not interested in defense. And tried to stay away from it. And now it's the opposite. Oh, have they changed?
Yeah,
so
big time.
There's this, and I added this just because it's somewhat relevant. The Army now has opened up a innovation core, and high-level people like Andrew Bosworth from Meta are joining this. I don't know if they're going to wear uniforms or not, but it's the Nerd Brigade is reporting for duty, says the Wall Street Journal, and they're joining in to generally figure out how to bring technology to the Pentagon, and in a fairly formal relationship here. That would not have happened 8 years ago. It just simply would not have happened. And this led me to pull out Eisenhower's famous military-industrial complex, his farewell address. And I think it's worth reading it again. No, I can't find the part of it. All right, here we go. A vital element in keeping peace is our military establishment, he says. But he goes on to say that, I'm not finding the right part now. But everybody knows what it says. He just says, beware. Beware, because we're at a point where the interests are such that they will feed each other. And what we should have instead is an independence. And so what you're seeing is Silicon Valley, which was perceived to be on one end of the political spectrum, now is on the other, was perceived as being, should we say, peaceful, and now is more hawkish. I don't know where this takes us as a society, but also where it takes them as companies and the relationship we have with them. So I think there's some caution needed here. But we don't see much caution these days.
It also ties into kind of, largely, I believe, not to get too political, but where we are from a political perspective right now. There's kind of like a pushback on norms of belief around U.S. government and involvement in certain things, widely, and AI is certainly a part of that, and defense is a part of that. How we're thinking about defense is very different. And 7-8 years ago, at least here in the U.S., very different administration that was very, I guess it was still Trump administration probably then. But
the culture was different, I think.
I was going to say there's like a hardening that's happened in the last 7 or 8 years. It's certainly not a softening. It's more of a hardening, kind of digging the feet into the dirt and saying, no, there's like a toughness that I think plays into this, where now the air is less about sensitivity around these topics. I think another example of this is, what we've seen with social media networks kind of eliminating their DEI initiatives and everything. That's all shifted and transformed. I think that's kind of part of this. There's like a reaction in the opposite direction that says these things that we used to not be okay with, now we are, because damn it, we are. And it's just where we are now. And I think this kind of plays into that too, is my hunch.
There's a nuance to this too. I finally found what I was looking for in Eisenhower's address. And remember when he said this is Sputnik time. This is technological revolution time. And so he talked about what was in fact seen as a revolution that we're living through now, and said that research becomes central. And today the solitary inventor tinkering in his shop has been overshadowed by task forces of scientists and laboratories and testing fields. In the same fashion, the free university, historically the fountainhead of free ideas and scientific discovery, has experienced a revolution in the conduct of research. Partly because of the huge costs involved, a government contract becomes virtually a substitute for intellectual curiosity. For every old blackboard, there are now hundreds of new electronic computers. The prospect of domination of the nation's scholars by federal government, project allocations, and the power of money is ever present and is gravely to be regarded. Oh, is that coming home to roost right now?
Absolutely.
The government giveth, and surprise, the government can taketh away.
Yeah.
And so the money that's coming from government to technology now is more like what OpenAI did. So you're a customer. You're buying what we have. We're going to help you develop stuff. As opposed to, we're going to do research. And, I miss Bell Labs. I miss that kind of pure, that opportunity for pure research that led to things that were surprises.
Yeah.
And I miss, obviously, because I'm involved with universities getting money for research, and it's now being pulled away for all kinds of reasons.
Boy, that's changing. Yeah, totally.
So this relationship of Silicon Valley to government warrants watching, because I think there's danger there.
Yeah, indeed. And we will continue to watch. Yeah, and OpenAI, this is not the first that they've had anything to do with, defense technology. They had partnered up with Anduril in the past, facing competition, like I believe you mentioned. They're also not the only AI company kind of cutting deals like this. Anthropic, Palantir, Amazon are in pursuit of their own defense and intelligence contracts. But yeah, it really does seem like a direction that's worth watching closely.
And OpenAI did announce some time ago they were going to do a government thing, but the first step in government was not, HHS or the VA, it was the Pentagon. So it speaks loudly.
Right. It does. It really does. Let's take a look at how Google's AI tools might be impacting news publishers. In our ongoing segment, how Google's AI tools might be impacting news publishers. Wall Street Journal says the AI Armageddon is here for online news publishers. And the headline there is news sites are getting crushed by Google's new AI tools. Wall Street Journal says Huffington Post, The Washington Post, Business Insider seeing steep declines with drops of more than 50% in the past 3 years. And I know that in the past when we've talked about this, it's important to note, like, okay, 3 years, that's interesting to see the drop. Difficult to align it specifically to Google's new AI tools because they haven't been around for 3 years. So there was something dirty in the water prior to this. Something was changing.
Yes, and I think the Wall Street Journal is constantly anti-Google. I'm sorry to ascribe a motive to them, but I do. Murdoch and company have been absolutely against Google. So what's weird about this story to me is they're putting it entirely on Google. And
right.
Google has new competitors. So if you're not getting links, it may be because of Perplexity or Anthropic or OpenAI or Copilot or whatever it may be. It's not just Google now. So the weird thing is that Google is affected as well, but they're blaming Google for all of this. At the same time, there's other data out. This is not AI related, but it's important, is that for the first time, according to the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism at Oxford, social media has overtaken TV as America's top news source. At the same time, for the first time, linear TV is overtaken by streaming or by online video.
That's right.
And so there's a huge sea change in media, and it's wrong to say, oh, that's the singular cause of what's happening. No, everything is changing greatly. I was just editing this part of the book. Sorry, I'm plugging it. It's not even out yet.
Love it.
But, and I might have talked about this before too, where around the turn of the century, nobody was sure who was going to win, magazines, books, or newspapers. They were all jockeying for position. A Sunday newspaper cost 5 cents. Magazines couldn't compete. Books were getting more journalistic. And I don't think it's clear now what forms of media will come out on top. Magazines and newspapers, I think, could basically disappear. Is it newsletters? Is it podcasts? Is it YouTube? Is it AI agents? I think we're at the very early stages of this and don't know where this comes out. So it's worth noting what's happening to traffic for news. Fine, noted Wall Street Journal, noted Rupert, but to claim one cause is ridiculous.
Right. And it's not just, the Wall Street Journal, of course, BBC, there was an article there writing about the shift away from traditional search to AI-generated answers and how that's impacting sites. BBC cites some analyses that show 30 to 70% drop in traffic sent to websites. They blame, of course, in this article or point to AI mode and AI overviews. So Google really getting a lot of the heat. But yeah, you're right. It's interesting that it all gets shown as Google's the bad guy. Introspectively, from an introspective perspective, well, I guess they would be the same thing, wouldn't they? I use Google search for different reasons than I do AI search. I go to Google search when I want to go to a place and I don't know how to get there. That might be a Google search. If I'm looking for a headline that is up to the minute, if I hear that something happened, I might open Twitter just to see if people are responding, but I might also just open up Google and do a search for the thing to see if it appears as like a news item up at the top. Somebody wrote a news article so I can find out about it. Image and video search. So if I'm before going to the source like YouTube or whatever, I might go to Google search and do a search for a video and then go into it from there. But if I'm looking to expand my knowledge on something, if I'm looking for information about a topic or how to do something or troubleshooting, problem solving, broad context, my habits have changed, and I've witnessed that happen dramatically over the past year, is that I don't go to Google anymore for that. I go to Perplexity, and I use that.
The news service called Complexity, yes.
Oh my God, yes. That's a funny slip. Meanwhile, it doesn't make it complex at all. That's part of the reason why I go there, is because instead of me having to, from an initial standpoint, go out to 20 or 30 different sources and try and figure out, make sense of it or kind of put them into a bucket so that I can explore. Perplexity does that in seconds. And yeah, all this to say, I definitely have noticed a very big shift in my habits as far as how and what I use Google search for. It's definitely shifted.
Well, also, a story like this is an example of what I'll call the dead chicken or rotten egg. Because what's ruining which?
Yeah.
Right? So everybody's screaming, well, Google search is getting really crappy. And now this is the opposite. Well, Google's ruining the web. Well, or is the web ruining Google, or is Google ruining the web, or neither? And I suspect it's neither. But yeah, the web is getting worse. I think that's true. And that's why the AI agents are even more. The paradox here is that AI is ruining the web, and AI is presenting itself as the cure to that. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll cut through all the crap for you and just find the essence of what you want because we put the crap there.
Right. Yeah. What came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't really know in this, in this regard. It's interesting. How do we feel about AI coming to our toys? Mattel announced a partnership with OpenAI, of course. They all got to partner with OpenAI first for some reason. Bringing AI to its major products. So Barbie, Hot Wheels, Polly Pocket, Magic 8 Ball. I can actually see AI being pretty interesting in something like a Magic 8 Ball. As long as you can keep it, keep it from telling your kid something incredibly inappropriate.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? They are prioritizing, they say, age-appropriate play experiences, prioritizing privacy, prioritizing safety, and the first products coming later this year.
So I predict that by early next year, then after Christmas, we will have a story on this podcast about jailbreaking Barbie.
Yes, getting Barbie. Ooh, I gotta fly. Getting Barbie to say things.
Bad things.
Barbie.
I shouldn't say
totally.
Bad Barbie, bad.
Well, I mean that will it be, and we don't actually know the answer, but will it be a toy where it literally has like a voice model that you can interact with that is in the voice of Barbie to where you could get it to say things, or will it be predefined to a certain degree? Probably a little bit of both, but I'm curious to see what it turns into.
I can't imagine what Jonathan Haidt and company, the moral panic, maybe they'll move on from social media and phones now to AI and fully panic about that next.
Yeah. It also reminds me, do you remember Furbies? Maybe not, but Furbies were way back when this little, let me see if I can get an image for video viewers here. They were these, let's see here. Okay. So here's a Furby. So these were like early 2000s, and they were these little toys, these little cute little monster toys with blinking eyes and a moving mouth, and they didn't talk, but they made little it was like nonsense noises when you talk to them, and you could put two of them.
Do that again, Jason.
Let me tell you, I had a couple of Furbies. Don't ask. But you could put a couple of them next to each other, and they could talk to each other, right? They'd get it. They'd like sync up. They'd sync up, and they'd start having this like back and forth conversation and everything. And at some point, they were banned from the Pentagon. And my memory on this is hazy, but because it was believed that they were actually some sort of like communication device that could collect information and send it back to China or wherever these things were devised or whatever. And I wonder if we're going to have that kind of reaction to AI in our toys. What kind of information is it sending back? Is it hopping onto a network and telling everybody about how my kid ate Cheerios for breakfast?
Am I crazy? I'm trying to look up something right now, but AI is making up stuff. Wasn't there a moment when somebody made an elf on the shelf that could listen to you or something like that?
Oh,
there was some kind of toy like that, and I can't find it.
Oh, wow. Okay. I haven't heard about an elf on the shelf.
I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. There was some toy like that was put out there, and it could listen and respond, and it didn't go well. And I think that AGI Barbie is not going to go well. Or
AGI Barbie.
Barbie is going to take over the world. So instead of our vision of the robotic future Boston Dynamics, now our vision of the future is Barbie in charge. I kind of like that. That's all right.
I like that. I'm okay with that.
A world with Barbie in charge, I'm for.
Yes. Yes. I can get behind that. AGI Barbie. I love that. That's got to be the name of that particular Barbie is AGI Barbie, not AI Barbie. It should be AGI Barbie. How do we know we've got Barbie when we get there? AGI Barbie when we get there. We'll know when we know. Oh, that's awesome. By the way, Mattel is also integrating OpenAI tools into its business operations. So, I think all companies are to a certain degree. That's quickly going to become non-news.
Yeah.
Such and such company is integrating AI into its business operations.
Right.
Yeah. I think they all kind of do.
Yeah.
So AGI Barbie, I love it. All right. Real quick, if you're enjoying this show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That is one great free way that you can spread the word of this podcast. Love getting the reviews there. It's a huge help. Gets the word out. So go do that now. Thank you.
If you leave enough 5-star reviews, Jason will do one whole segment in a Furby voice.
Yes, there. That's a little sample.
There it is, yeah.
No, we want them to actually leave the review, Jeff. We don't want to discourage it. So you tell me in your review if you want me to do that or not. Actually, don't. We don't need the reviews to say anything about Furby. Anyways, you do you. I'll just leave it in your hands. All right, going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we'll do a little speed round. Trying a few things with the show to get a few more stories in. So we got that on the other side of the break. All right. I always like speed round. It's kind of like a change log, sort of.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I'm glad you make this change, because I think what this show is about is if you watch and listen every week, you're going to get a sample of the top headlines of the week. Yeah. And our blathering about it and our perspective on it. But that's what you should expect is most of the major stories on AI this week will include. Not the obvious, there's a new version of Gemini. Gemini 2.5 is released. But you just learned that. But that's not what we're going to do. But I think the things that we think matter. So speed round, getting more headlines in is a good idea.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a little more than just headlines, but these are a few stories that might not have made it if we had to spend like 5 or 10 minutes talking about each one. We might not have enough, but never shut up, Jeff. That's why you're here. I love it. Meta has updated its AI app to include a warning that advises people against sharing personal or sensitive information when they're posting to the app's public feed. So it has like a discovery feed that people were sharing some of the Meta output to the feed. And apparently there was some information hitting that feed that people were complaining like it's too easy to inadvertently share private conversations and make them public. And that was appearing in the discovery feed. You don't want to do that. Some of this stuff is very sensitive. You want to keep it under control, I guess.
So 2 things about this. One is it's very reminiscent of the introduction of newsfeed in the first place. Because originally, hey children, let me tell you about Facebook at the beginning. It had something called the wall. And you would write on somebody's wall, and that was it. And then when they introduced newsfeed, suddenly, oh my God, the stuff that I wrote is now being shared to others. What the hell is that? Oh, I'm scared. Well, if you were putting private stuff on Facebook, you were a fool anyway, right? People learned that lesson. Newsfeed is now Facebook. This is very similar. And the stories were weird. I forget who did the first gotcha story on this. But Meta was pretty clear. Choosing to make things public was an opt-in. So people were not just putting something up they thought was private. And then suddenly, oh my God, it became public, not unlike newsfeed and the days. So I think all really happened here is that Meta is saying, hello, fools, are you sure you want to make this available to the world? Because it can be. And so it's better labeled. That's fine. I don't think there was really a scandal here. It's more about media coverage of technology.
Right. Yeah.
And it's the same old newsfeed story all over again.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Cool. So, all right. So now you get a warning, and hopefully that'll protect you.
Don't be a fool.
Or save you. Use these tools with respect and care and awareness, probably more than anything. SAG-AFTRA has suspended its strike against major video game developers after reaching a tentative agreement on a new contract. The strike began, you may remember, July of last year, centered on concerns about the impact of AI on voice and performance capture talent. So, that would be people who are doing motion capture that's a form of acting essentially, and then that gets integrated into the video game, and what is done with that information. That's kind of part of what this is about. The decision allows members to return to work while the deal awaits approval from the national board and broader membership. So reach a deal enough to get those video game workers back to work
before they get replaced.
Until the next hammer drops.
Yeah.
Somewhere down the line.
That's a longer strike than I knew. I think I lost sight of that.
Yeah, me too. So when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I think we did talk about that last year. Sometimes these things take a while, I suppose. The UK's data bill. This is the data use and something bill. I can't remember what it was called exactly. I didn't write that down. But in the face of strong opposition from artists like Elton John and Dua Lipa, is passed. So the UK data bill has passed. They had argued that the bill fails to protect creative works from unauthorized use by AI companies. That is, Elton John, Dua Lipa, and team were arguing that. Critics still feel that the bill lacks any sort of real transparency requirements for tech companies that are using the copyrighted material for AI training. And apparently this is not the end. The government is promising more regulations on AI and copyright still to come.
So here I have been impressed. I don't usually say that about UK regulators. I have been impressed that the UK has been very forward thinking about this, and this will get me in trouble with many quarters out there. But I happen to agree that we've got to make quality data available for training. Mm-hmm. And that's what this basically does. And by data, it can mean entertainment, it can mean creativity, it can mean lots of things. And for training, I think that is perfectly legitimate. Now, if it releases things that quote directly, then that's a problem. But if it is just for training, and if it really means that, then I think that's fine. And I have long thought that, and I'm surprised that the generally anti-tech atmosphere in the UK didn't take charge here, and the tech won this one.
Do you think that this plays any sort of serves as any sort of example for like the U.S. making its own determinations, or because they're detached, because they're not the same, country, obviously.
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter.
Maybe I think it's more about the UK realizing that they cannot compete with the U.S. Unless they have, because it's Wild West for data here. And unless they enable these companies there in a more regulated environment to train their new models, that they're not going to have models.
If they hinder too strictly, then they're just setting themselves even further behind.
Yeah. But who knows?
That won't stop the artists and creative folk from still feeling like their work is being stolen and used without their permission and used without any sort of compensation. And yeah, it's always a tough one for me. I can see both sides.
Yep,
I can totally feel both sides.
Well, I got into that a little bit today. I'm trying to find what's the animation studio. I want to say Giggly. That's not what's.
Ghibli.
Ghibli. Thank you. Ghibli.
Yeah.
Giggly. I like Giggly. It's Giggly. No, it makes me giggle. Ghibli. So a few weeks ago we had the much Sturm und Drang over people using one of the other platforms to do things in the style of Studio Ghibli.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, today we had a feature, I think it was in the New York Times, I can't find it right off the bat, saying how influential Studio Ghibli is with other artists in games and such. So what we were cursing the AI for doing, we're praising others for doing, and the result is the same. Mm-hmm. And somebody came after me and said, a human artist doing this takes up a lot less energy than a model. I said, well, unless the artist eats beef and drives a car to work and works with electricity, and no, I don't know which one uses less energy. Nice try, but that one doesn't work on me. No. Yeah. That's not where the rule comes. Is you can't read my stuff. That's not where the rule comes. Is you can't copy and quote my stuff without permission.
Right. Google rolled out an updated release of Gemini 2.5. It includes a new feature, though. Like you said earlier, we're probably going to be taking our foot off the gas of talking about every single release that all these companies put out. But In the Gemini app,
We'll tell you what it means when they do.
Yeah, totally. Not just that it happened, but like if there's something important around that, then we can talk about that. Gemini app is now going to allow users to upload videos for AI use. This is an expansion to the feature that was already available for uploading image or document to Gemini to analyze, understand, answer questions about that content. Now that can be done with uploaded video content. So that's rolling out to select users on Android and iOS right now.
I think the multimodal nature of the input and output is just so impressive. That's what and as I've mentioned for the next book, I'm keeping things in PDF, but I can also put in web pages and audio into Notebook LM, and it'll do things with it. It's just amazing. My daughter is interested in genealogy, and my wife's family is half German. And so she comes to me because ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch, and my Deutsch is sehr schlecht. So I cheat and use the tools. She came in with a letter, and the script, the German script, was just unreadable to me. It was impossible. And I thought, well, let's try it. And I said, Julia, scan that. And I put it into Gemini. It read the script perfectly and then translated it and then summarized it. Right?
That's cool.
That's amazing to me. It's just amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Neat. Nvidia and Perplexity announcing a partnership.
Let me stay one more second. This is why you need training data. Because it couldn't learn, air quotes, learn, how to do that unless it had seen that script. Right? It can't answer questions and analyze things, analyze air quotes also, find things, maybe better, unless it has seen analogs of that, exemplars of that. That's why good training data matters. That's why I'm in favor of the UK legislation. Thank you for that aside.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. It's a good example. Nvidia and Perplexity announcing a partnership to develop and deploy AI models tailored to local languages and cultures across Europe and the Middle East. Kind of talking about, a few stories back about, the European countries kind of feeling like they're in some ways behind and needing to be able to catch up. This is certainly something that helps. They will work with regional AI firms to create sovereign models reflecting each nation's unique needs. Nvidia provides the infrastructure, Perplexity handles the distribution, and seen as
it's also just smart business for both companies because they don't want to be now too tied to us.
Yeah, right.
And to broaden their base and to go and say, we will do what you want and need in this country specifically. And our second episode in the show was Sven Stürmer Taulo, I just like saying the name. Then of Schibsted about Norway's own LLM. And so that need for local language and local cultural sensitivity is important in this as well. So it's just good business. And both those companies. Totally. Perplexity and Nvidia are the ones that impress me most with their business acumen.
There's quite a pairing there. I absolutely agree. And then finally, we've got Google announcing a new, this actually just happened right before showtime, so I put it in kind of last minute, but announced a new Search Live feature for AI mode, letting users have natural back and forth voice conversations with AI mode. So you can tap the live icon, ask questions, receive audio answers, related links for further exploration inside of AI mode. And they do have plans to expand those capabilities even further, camera-based interactions, that sort of stuff, kind of like we were talking about a couple of stories ago. But have you, now that AI mode has kind of broadened out and become more broadly available in the US, have you found yourself in any sort of reason to use it?
You're just cruel, Jason. This is just cruel.
You haven't found it?
I can't get it. I can't get it.
Oh, I was like, it's okay if you haven't used it. It's all right. But no, you can't get it.
I can't get it because I'm a workspace person.
So you'd have to remember to switch to your personal Gmail account.
Where my personal Gmail doesn't have the Gmail I want to analyze.
Right.
It's in my workspace email.
Right. Well, and so this would be, this is like integrated into search. So I've noticed that sometimes I go to Google search. I was talking earlier about the different reasons I use different things. And I've noticed that sometimes I go into Google search to put in a query, and I'm getting more used to, oh, I put that in there. Maybe I want to take this over to AI mode and ask it a question that goes deeper. And
I
so
wish I could.
And so I tap that AI mode button. It takes that query and now inserts it over there, and then I can kind of ask against it. And I don't know. I'm finding it pretty useful. So I'm sorry that you're not getting it.
Just I didn't think you were a mean guy, Jason.
Yeah,
you have such a reputation as a nice guy, and turns out
I don't know what to tell you, Jeff. You're just gonna have to get a personal account and change everything about how you do your business online.
well, the bill is going up now for Workspace to $60 a month.
Oh wow!
Because they're offering more AI. Hello,
but
Google,
but not in the but not to you. All right. Well, that's the end of our lightning round, speed round, whatever you want to call it. We'll explore that more in future episodes. Jeff, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking.
Thank you, my friend.
JeffJarvis.com, of course, is where you should go to find all of Jeff's work. The Web We Weave, the Gutenberg Parenthesis magazine, soon to be Hot Type. Well, maybe not soon, but soon enough to be Hot
Sooner
Type.
than it was 2 days ago. Yep.
Yes, always sooner. Every day, even sooner than before. JeffJarvis.com. If you want to find everything about this show, audio, video, show notes, subscribe links, it can all be found at the website for this show, aiinside.show. And if you really, really love this show and you want to support us on a deeper level, patreon.com/AIinsideShow. You get ad-free shows, a Discord community. You can get an AI Inside t-shirt by becoming an executive producer. We appreciate our executive producers, Dr. Do, Jeffrey Maricini, WPVM 103.7 in Asheville, North Carolina, Dante St. James, Bono Dayrick, Jason Neifert, Jason Brady, Anthony Downs. And I will say that in Discord, man, there are a couple of folks who are just killing it on kind of talking at length about how they're using AI. And Dr. Do, you're definitely sharing a lot of really interesting information in the Discord. So I just want to give you some props for that. Thank you for doing that, Dr. Do. I'm learning a lot from you. But anyways, patreon.com/AIinsideShow. Go there, support us, and we can't thank you enough. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. It's been a lot of fun. We'll see you next time on another episode of AI Inside. Bye, everybody.